We are now on day 14 of the Trump-Epstein memo controversy, scandal, imbroglio. Here's the situation. 2 weeks ago today, the Department of Justice, led by Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, put out a memo, two-page memo that essentially said, you know, this thing we've talked about, Jeffrey Epstein's death over the years, that Democrats were behind this and they were covering it up and et cetera, et cetera. None of that's true. He actually did commit suicide, as was concluded at the time. And no, he never maintained a list of clients who took part in his sexual trafficking and sexual exploitation of young women. 2 weeks on, I think they have finally settled on a new-ish strategy to try to deal with this. Now, they've tried lots of strategies. They've tried to ignore it. They've tried to distract from it. I'll go through some of that stuff later. But I think they have a new strategy, and that strategy goes like this. Try to run out the clock. Now, I'll explain more, but let me just get to where we are. So in the middle to the end of last week, this was really, the pressure was ramping up. And I think a lot of elected Republicans in the House were getting very nervous about this whole story, at least in part because Tom Massey, a Republican from Kentucky, and Ro Khanna, a Democrat from California, had put together a discharge petition. All you need to know about this is it would sort of force a vote on the House floor. That would have required the Department of Justice to release all documents related to the Epstein investigation. And that had started to get some sort of momentum behind it. 6 or 8 Republicans had signed on to it. There were a bunch of Democrats already signed on to it. And so Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, amid, I think, nervousness from his Republican colleagues, started to do what I would say is basically a plan B. They did not want this discharge petition to go through, but they also didn't want, members of Congress, Republicans, did not want to look like they were opposed to the release of the Epstein stuff because the base feels very strongly about the release of the Epstein investigation files. So Mike Johnson put together a non-binding resolution that would have essentially said, we would like more documents to be released as it relates to this, but we're not tying the Attorney General's hands and saying she has to do this. This was purely an effort, I think, to get some nervous Republicans a little bit of a foothold on the story, to be able to say, we're going to vote for this thing, and we are in favor of transparency, et cetera, because the story was getting out of control. Now, what happened is that Donald Trump came out and said, okay, Pam Bondi can release, the Attorney General can release any and all credible, whatever that means, credible pieces of evidence from the grand jury investigation. Now, here's the deal. The grand jury testimony is not the key. It's the stuff the grand jury saw that the federal government found in this investigation. That's really the key. So even if Pam Bondi released all the grand jury testimony, I'm not sure we'd learn all that much new. But that was a way that Trump was trying to douse some of the flames that had risen up around the issue. And that made Mike Johnson recalculate. Now, I'm going to tell you how he recalculated and why they're doing this right after this, because I want to make a pitch to you. I want you to become a subscriber to this channel. We're 110,000 people strong at this point, which is amazing. I think people are drawn to two things, authenticity and independence. I am authentic. I am not going to tell you what I think you want to hear every day. I'm going to tell you my take on it as someone who spent a long time in political journalism and is doing his best to shoot you straight. I'm also independent. I don't work for a big media company. They don't tell me what to do or what not to do. I also don't really support either party. I'm not a partisan. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm calling balls and strikes no matter what uniform the batter at the plate is wearing. I think that matters. I hope you do too. And if you do, I hope you hit that subscribe button. Okay, so Congress comes back into session on Monday, the 21st of July. And Mike Johnson says, you know that non-binding resolution we were putting together? We're going to table it for a while. In fact, we're going to table it all the way until we come back from our most recent recess. Now, here's what you need to know about the congressional schedule. They always take August off. Now, they'll say they don't take it off. They're doing constituent work in their districts, whatever. They're not in Washington in August. They're not voting. So after this week, after this Friday, Congress will be gone until after Labor Day. So like a 5-week break. And what Johnson said is, In order to allow Pam Bondi to release the information, this credible evidence, anything that's credible as it related to the grand jury testimony, we're going to hold off on any vote until we see what she releases. Then we'll come back and talk about it. Now, what they're trying to do here is very simple. They are hoping that these next 5 weeks, 6 weeks, people have other stuff going on. Other big stories rise. You're focused on your summer. You're focused on getting the kids back to school. You lose either interest or attention on the Epstein story and what Trump and his administration knew or knows or doesn't know. And that by the time they come back after Labor Day, we're on to something else. Some other big story in politics is dominating in a way that the Epstein story has dominated these first 2 weeks. These last 2 weeks in politics. This is, look, for anyone who's a college basketball fan, before they had the 30-second shot clock in college basketball, there were teams, North Carolina under Dean Smith sort of perfected this. They would run what was called a four corners offense. And all that meant was once they were ahead in the game, they would put people at each four corners of the court and they would just pass the ball around. There was no shot clock. They could just run. They could take a minute, 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes of possession and kind of run the clock out until they won the game. That's what congressional Republicans, and I would assume with a very strong assist to keep the basketball metaphor going, from the White House are doing right now. They have decided, look, we can buy some time with this Trump thing saying that Pam Bondi's going to release any credible stuff from the grand jury testimony. That'll buy us time. We got 5 weeks where we're going to be out of pocket. The Capitol Hill reporters will not be able to come right up to us and be like, what do you think about the Epstein files? They have to make a phone call. You don't have to return it. Do you give the story less juice, less energy, less accelerant, and does the fire die down? That is absolutely 100% what they are planning. Now, might it not work? Maybe not, but I will tell you this. Having covered politics for a very long time, the public has a very short attention span. We get very interested in something, and then a week later, we don't even remember the name of the astronomer CEO who is cuddling with the chief people officer who the guy had at a Coldplay concert, right? It's the biggest thing in the world until it isn't the biggest thing in the world. And then it's kind of like, oh, I vaguely remember that. Now, I don't think Epstein's ever going to totally drift that far from the public imagination, but I do think that almost a month and a half will take a bunch of energy and heat out of this story. And you never know what happens in the next 5 weeks. There could be a huge political development, a huge foreign policy development, that some external event that changes the subject, and we just don't go back to it. That is what Republicans are 100% banking on. So they're not ignoring it. They are now saying, well, we're going to wait until Pam Bondi releases what she's going to release. Folks, that is not going to be revelatory. I can tell you that now. There is nothing in there that you are going to learn a whole heck of a lot about, and there's obviously a ton more that could be released. But this is buying time and trying to run out the clock. It is the four corners offense, but for politics. All right, everybody, that's it for me today. As I said earlier, I hope you subscribe. Independent and authentic. That's what I promise you. Every day I will try to do that. I also hope if you are already a subscriber, do me a favor, like and comment on this video. That helps in terms of the YouTube algorithm get me more eyeballs on stuff with people who aren't subscribers, people who are just kind of wandering around the YouTube space. They're like, oh, this guy, the algorithm will spit more of that stuff out to them if you like and comment. I hope you do it. Last thing, go old school. Tell a person or two why you like what I do here and why you think it's important. Yeah, word of mouth. Be an evangelist for me. All right, everyone, take care.